The Mercedes GLE, the medium SUV or the middle SUV in the range, has become quite a familiar sight on the MotorMatters driveway. We've tested the 300D, the 400D, and the 63. Of course, the Manic twin-turbo V8s. Well, this is one step down from the 63, but importantly, it is still AMG. Not quite the AMG as in one man, one engine, but it certainly has lots of AMG input in it, and that's what counts. Because this is the GLE 53, which means it has the 6-cylinder engine, turboed, 320 kilowatts, and 520 Newton meters of torque. Really more than sufficient for anyone's needs, unless you want the bragging rights of the 63S. That's always your choice. But the body obviously is exactly the same as the others, so we're not going to spend too much time. You know all the features you get, and you know all the extras you can add to this car. But one that does really stand out on this particular one, I have to show you right now, is look at these gigantic 22-inch alloys we got on here. 22 inches. They do lift the car. The presence is incredible. You can see how they fill the arches. It's amazing. But I've got to tell you, they do give you a bit of a hard ride and slightly bumpy at times. But those are choices you make. Of course, what's also important, I told you it's turboed, and it is the 4Matic Plus, which you get same as the 63, and not just the normal 4Matic that you'd get on the 400D. Gets a bit complicated. It just means there's even more electronics involved in the four-wheel drive system when you want to use it. You've got a nice substantial running board over here, which is always important. And let's just pop open the back door, and you can see the loads and loads of space for backseat passengers. That is always so crucial in a car of this type. You've got USB power points in the center console, of course. You've got air conditioning for the rear seats, of course. You've got the upgraded Burmester sound system that we'll look at, but it's there. You can see speakers in the rear doors. And interestingly, seats have Alcantara inserts in certain spots, just to make sure you're held in your seat really nicely, as opposed to slipping around on leather. Those are all important features and factors, of course. You come around to the back. Let's just take a look over here. I mentioned the AMG, of course, and the 53, but drop the camera right down here. And here's a telltale sign, isn't it? 2 massive drain pipes on either side of the car. 4 big bore exhausts. Press button, of course, to open the rear tailgate. And you've got a really, really massive boot area. And that is so important, again, for the kind of usage. And believe it or not, you do get a spare wheel, but note it uses a compressor to blow it up. So it's certainly not, and it's a 20-incher, by the way, not a 22 like the rest of the car. So just keep that in mind. Obviously, it'll do for emergency use, but not necessarily for long term. And you have a little button over here for the tow bar. I can pop out, but let's not worry about that now, because you've of course got that fancy tow bar that pops out of the back there. You can set the height of the tailgate for opening and closing. You can see I can only just reach it, so it does depend on the owner or the regular driver. But there you go, press the button and she closes for you. Let's take a look on the road. Let's take a look inside. There's no doubt in my mind that this car's happy place is actually out on a freeway, cruising along. I'm doing 120 now. Nice and easy, gentle, simple. You can see the engine's under no stress whatsoever. If you can read, I've got a 44 kilowatts, 44 kilowatts of that 320 being used while you're cruising at this speed. That's what's so exceptional. Of course, it is a typical GLE. It's very, I hate the word standard, but it's a GLE. But this 53 engine in my book, 320 kilowatts, 520 Newton meters of torque, is just so more than adequate already. You've of course got that AMG selector over there for comfort, for Sport Plus. No, you don't get the race that you get on the 63. But so what? You do get, of course, the exhaust and other settings, those buttons over there. So those AMG buttons are on the wheel. And that, of course, is so critical and so important. The 22-inch wheels fitted to this car, they're not standard. They are extras. They're big, but they are a bit bumpy and crashy at times. I've got to put it that way. Not a hardship in any way. And they certainly look the part, as I'm sure you noticed when we were showing you the outside of the vehicle. But, I don't know. Maybe a slightly smaller wheel could be that little bit more comfortable on the road. But overall, the other incredible thing, of course, is if I can pick up the rev counter, at 120, we're on like about 1700 revs in, of course, 9th gear on this AMG speed shift automatic gearbox, which is just butter smooth in comfort mode, but can get pretty harsh on the shifts if you want to, and if you want to push on in Sport or Sport Plus. But that's what this car is about all the way. So really, it's about, I think, not just intercity cruising, intercontinent cruising, if you could, would be what this car really wants to do. With us having tested so many examples of the GLE lately, the interior is such a familiar space, I'm not going to say too much. But let's look at the critical figures. Well, I've done 416 kilometers so far on this test, average 11.8 liters per 100. I think that's quite fair and adequate for a car of the sort. Let's leave it at that. You know how you can scroll through. You've got the little haptic buttons over here. It's all standard Mercedes. I'm not going to go through any more of it. Of course, you have got the AMG legend on the steering wheel. And to prove it's an AMG, look there. That's the control for the drive modes. I'll show it to you in a few moments. And this one, of course, over here can set exhaust, suspension, and other settings over there. So that's your AMG settings. You also do, of course, have nice, solid paddles on the steering wheel to, can I say, counter this, my hated stalk gear shift. I can't use any other word. I still don't like it. And if there's one thing I don't like about any of the current Mercedes models, it's got to be that factor. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. You come around, of course, you've got all this very interesting trim over here, carbon fiber type effect. You've got heating, cooling for for drivers and passenger seats with full electric operation as well. All those things you expect from this car, don't you? So we're not going to spend too much time on any of it. Let's go around. Of course, you've got the really nice big center screen, which again is standard, and it does have the voice activated "Hey Mercedes,
how may I help you?"
system for it. Change the ambient lighting to green.
I'm sorry. Can you say that again, please?
Change the ambient lighting to green.
Okay, I'm changing the color.
And there you go. Obviously, it's not very dark in here, but it has just changed color for us. Going back to the screen over there, of course, you've got all the functionalities you'd expect. And you can have a look here. You've got phone, you've got navigation, go the other way. You've got all these features over here, comfort, track and pace. But now I wanted to show you the performance one quickly, because that's a nice one. And I go over there and I go to engine, for example, and that shows you, and it's really interesting on the road, the output in kilowatts and newton meters that you're using at any given moment while you're driving. Just a little fun factor as far as I'm concerned. It really is nice, but you've got all the functionality on here as well. Let's leave it there. You come down here, obviously you've got your full air conditioning system, and below here, of course, you have got a inductive charging pad and USB sockets over there for the front. You've got another USB inside the center console over here as well. So you've got plenty of charging points throughout the car, and that's important to me as well. Coming back to the center, you've got, of course, your scroll pad, your touch pad over here, and you've got the buttons that work with it over there as well. So they are standard. Below that, these are a couple of very important ones. It's basically a repeat of those AMG ones I showed you at the bottom of the steering wheel. Exhaust suspension, and that's to go into manual mode, and that's to switch off your traction control if you're crazy enough to ever do that with this kind of power. This button over here can raise and lower the ride height slightly if you're in the mood for doing that. But let's just go back to the screen for a second, and I'm going to play with that AMG switch that I showed you in the beginning, the one on the right hand side of the steering wheel. And it's now in comfort mode, but I'll swing it across, of course, and you go to sport mode, and you can see you can change things. You've got sport plus as well, and it does give you a kick up the butt when you shift into sport plus, I can assure you. Or you've even got an individual mode where you can set them all exactly to your own liking, and you can mix and match, can I call it that? So it's really up to you and your choice how you want it. The slippery trail, obviously, those are the ones for going off-road or off the beaten track, shall we say. Those are important. Right, I think you've got the picture. I said 320 kilowatts, 520 Newton meters of oomph under the bonnet, and it certainly is a lot of oomph. The big difference between this and Big Brother, the 63, is in the purchase price. You are talking R1,000,000 less than the base price without extras on a GLE 63S. Because the 53 comes in at just on 1.9 million rand, 63 comes in at 2.9. Obviously, then you start ticking your little boxes and going crazy as only you can when you're driving a car of the sort. This one has got approximately R250,000 worth of extras on it. And that seems to be the average ballpark figure that most people spend. But again, up to you. I leave that to you. But if you want a personal opinion, much as the 63S is great fun to play with, in real world, I would take this one ahead of the 63. Shoot me if you want. It's my opinion. That's what I'm going to say on that. And I'm going to leave it right there. For MotorMatters, I'm Eleanor. I'll see you next time.